rest of the news, it's been 5 months since the District of Columbia started its own medical marijuana program and joined 21 other states that have some form of medical marijuana legalization. But being a patient in the D.C. program isn't very easy. Patients have to fill out a 14-page application and basically sign their lives away before they can have access to the medicine and treatment that they need. And then there's always the threat that the federal government is going to come and arrest you. So why is D.C.'s medical marijuana program so complicated, and shouldn't the district be following the model of other medical marijuana states instead? Joining me now is Rabbi Jeffrey Kahn, owner of the Tacoma Wellness Center, a medical marijuana dispensary in Maryland, right next to Washington.
In Washington, D.C.
Here, you're in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
I'm so impressed. Rabbi Kahn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for correcting me on that. There is a Tacoma, Maryland. I was mixing them. How does the D.C. medical marijuana program work?
How does it work?
Yeah.
It's working more and more effectively every day. It's a heavily regulated program, regulated by both the Department of Health and the Metropolitan Police Department. We're registering more and more patients, and it's happening.
Are you finding that average, everyday GP docs who might have patients who would qualify for medical marijuana are increasingly referring them to, writing prescriptions for them and referring them to you? Or is there a reluctance on the part of doctors to go down that road?
Well, some doctors are reluctant, but it's not actually a prescription. It's writing a recommendation, which is actually just an affirmation of a patient's diagnosis sent into the Department of Health. More and more physicians are feeling more comfortable as they're learning more and seeing the results that their patients are experiencing.
So to come to you and get medical marijuana, a resident of Washington, D.C. does not need a prescription. They need merely a recommendation from their physician.
Not quite. They need the recommendation to take to the Department of Health, and they're registered by the DOH as a medical marijuana patient. And with that card, that they can come to us.
I see. And so what happens? Walk us through that process. Somebody goes to the doctor says, okay, you have cancer, you're going through chemo, or you have intractable pain, or whatever. I don't know all the things that qualify. Maybe you can tell us some of them.
Sure.
Then they go where and what happens, and is it one of these standing in an unemployment line, humiliating situations, or is it?
Absolutely not. So it's a decision made between a patient and a physician, and when the physician decides that this recommendation is important, they write the formal recommendation on the DOH form, send that into the Department of Health, and at the same time, the patient writes an application form as well. It's now just a 2.5-page application. It's been made a lot easier, and with those two things sent into the Department of Health, usually within 36 hours, the patient receives their card in the mail.
So the patient mails it in, the doctor mails it in, nobody has to go anywhere?
Nobody has to go anywhere. No humiliating standing on lines.
That's great. That's great. And how many patients are currently in the program here in D.C.?
There are a little more than 100 patients now, as of today, in the program.
I would think, for a city that's the size of some states, that's very few people.
Well, it's a few people, but it's more than we started with, and every day and every week there are more patients, and I think that we'll see over the course of 2014 that this will be a very effective program.
What are some of the conditions that you're most commonly seeing medical marijuana prescribed for?
Well, the 5 conditions that are allowed here in D.C. For a doctor to write a recommendation are AIDS, HIV, glaucoma, cancer, and then any issue related to muscle spasticity. And we're really seeing patients with all those diagnoses.
Interesting. Neuropathies, those kind of things, is that
absolutely, absolutely
interesting? And what is the risk of somebody who is a medical marijuana patient of being busted? I mean, we hear these horror stories out of California, this guy going to jail for 30 years for running a dispensary, which is your job. I mean,
that's true. Well, here in the District of Columbia, we don't think there is a risk. Certainly not for patients or physicians or for us either. The Justice Department announcement at the end of August showed that a well-regulated program will be tolerated by the Department of Justice. We believe this program is, and
do you
continue
grow your
to
own
work
pot
on.
so you know the quality, or do you?
We don't, but cultivators here that are also licensed and regulated by the Department of Health and the Police Department do the cultivation. It's all done under or very organic conditions and safe and sanitary conditions.
Remarkable.
It's tested, it's healthy, it's safe, and it's really helping patients here in the district.
I have heard that. I've heard that. Rabbi Kahn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the important work you're doing.
Thank you.